In 1620, while the Mayflower was in Provincetown, 18 of its men sailed in a small shallop, searching for a place to live. They came to present-day Eastham, where they were met by a group of Nauset. After a brief but violent encounter, the English left towards today's Plymouth. In 2020, we remember this first encounter. We explore its meanings for today and tomorrow. Hello and welcome back to the Sunset Series. My name is Joanna Hollick and I'm the coordinator of the Sunset Series with Eastham 400. I'm here today with Alyssa Harris, and she is a member of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and a recent graduate of Mashpee High School. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Do you see any connections between the epidemic that was brought by the Europeans 400 years ago and the pandemic today?
So both are caused by domestication of animals. So what I've heard from coronavirus is had to do with eating raw bats or undercooked bats, something like that. And then what was brought by the French in 1616, it came from rats. So basically, the life-threatening diseases that we have, most of the time it comes from the domestication of animals. But the other thing is that it's kind of weird how the epidemic was 1616 to 1619, and then the English came in 1620, and then they tried to colonize and take our land. And it's interesting because now the Trump administration, I'm pretty sure, or the government, they're trying to take the Wampanoag's land out of trust, and there's also a pandemic right now. So it's kind of history repeating itself.
So you've spoken about some of the foods that were grown. What about beverages?
A lot of the time we would just have tea and water, so we could have blueberry, strawberry, sassafras tea, which is really good. But the one thing that we didn't have was alcohol. And for the English, that's all they drank because their water was contaminated because they would go to the bathroom right where they got their water. So they actually thought that water was bad. They didn't know that they were contaminating it. But for us, because we didn't have alcohol, we lived a lot longer. Even though we didn't have it, though, there are some native people more towards Mexico that did. They could make it out of corn. And we've actually done it on accident a few times. We would accidentally ferment corn, and then it would become alcohol. But in that instance, usually we would just throw it away. But because we didn't have alcohol, we lived a lot longer. The English, they lived 50. The oldest native person to live was 137.
And why was the English's water so dirty compared to yours?
The English, they would throw their feces out the window, and on top of that, they had domesticated animals, which would just go to the bathroom wherever. So all that bacteria would seep into the soil and contaminate not only the water, but their crops that they had. For us, though, we would go to the bathroom far away from food and water sources. And even though we would go far away, eventually bacteria can make its way to those areas. So after 15 to 20 years, we would relocate. So we would burn down our whole home and go half a mile to 5 miles away from where we were before. Just because we would burn down that area, the soil could replenish itself, because after that time, not only does the bacteria get contaminated, but the soil is less fertile and the animals realize that it's a hunting spot.
And when trying to decide on a new place to move, what kind of factors played into where you would end up?
It depends on the seasons. So in the winter, you would be inland. So we would go half a mile to 5 miles inland in the winter because the trees would protect from storms and cold wind. But then in the summer, actually in the spring, summer, and fall, we would be on the coast because it's cooler down there, and our diet consists of more fish at that time.
And other than the differences in diet and the places that you lived, were there other significant differences in daily life depending on the seasons?
Well, winter was a lot easier because there was no garden that you had to tend, so it was just less work. It was the same all year, just less in the winter, because since we had 1 to 2 acres of garden land, spring, summer, and fall, that would be enough food to last the winter. So all of those crops would be dried out for the winter.
And what kind of meat did people normally eat?
Most common, spring, summer, and fall, it was fish and shellfish, like herring, trout, sturgeon, eel, a variety. And then in the winter, it would be red meat, such as mostly deer, but also moose, elk, skunk, raccoon. So we didn't eat red meat in the summer because, well, first of all, you're living with your nuclear family in the summer. It's only 4 people, and it would kind of take a long time to eat a whole deer or a whole moose, but we didn't preserve meat, so it would just go to waste. But not only that, red meat has a lot of iron, so it thickens your blood and it makes you warmer. So it doesn't really make sense why people have hamburgers and hot dogs in the summer, because it's just going to make them hotter. If anything, they should have it in the winter so then they can stay warm.
And you mentioned that the nuclear family is normally 4 people. Was that pretty typical for people to have 2 children?
Yeah, so the reason being, it's kind of seen as selfish to have too many kids because it would use a lot of land and a lot of resources. But the other thing is that women would have children in their early to mid 20s, and then they would have their next child after about 4 years because they actually would breastfeed their child for that long. And then once they had the next one, after another 4 years, they'd be around 30, 35, and that's usually the age you would stop having kids, is 35.
And if people did not want to have more than 2 or 3 kids, how would they prevent that?
So there actually was birth control from certain plants, and that was just one of a variety of different medicines that we had. We also had, we could use willow bark, which is actually an ingredient in aspirin, so it can help with headaches and aches and pains. We had a variety of plants that could help with that, or corn silk can help with menstrual cramps. There's just a variety of medicines that we had that people are surprised to hear about.
And are there any foods eaten today that would not have been traditionally eaten?
So we didn't have dairy or alcohol, and we also didn't have refined salts or sugar, so it was a lot healthier of a diet. So because of that, my ancestors didn't have the enzymes to digest some of those foods properly. That's why a lot of Native people they're lactose intolerant, and they also deal with alcoholism because their body can't digest it, so it'll just make them sick all the time. And their tolerance is very low also. So because they get sick more easily, people will tend to drink more, so then they don't feel sick. So because of that, they'll continue to drink, and not only that, they drink because they don't want to have to deal with their life, So that stereotype of natives being alcoholics, that's why. It's because they didn't drink it before colonization.
Thank you for being here today, Alyssa. It was really great to have you.
You're welcome.
My name is Joanna Hollick. Thank you for your support of the Sunset Series and Eastham 400. If you're interested in supporting Eastham 400 efforts by purchasing commemorative items, we do have several items for sale on our website, eastham400.org. We are selling gold foil First Encounter ornaments, t-shirts with the Eastham 400 logo, and montages made by a local artist. The ornaments feature an image of the shallop and come with a special description card. The t-shirts are available in light blue, navy, and ash gray, and in sizes adult small through 3XL. The montage depicts watercolor images of important historic and well-known landmarks around the town of Eastham. Each of these items are $20. Thank you.